I'm Christina Barnold, and I'm the coach of the Academic Challenge team here at Francis Scott Key High School. We compete in regional matches against the other local high schools in the county. We have anywhere from 4 to 5 competitions a year amongst the high schools. Each high school also competes once a year on the TV show on WJZ, It's Academic. We will actually be going to tape on January 31st, which is a couple Saturdays from now. And our show will be airing on April 4th. If we end up winning our tournament, then we'll continue to the semifinals. So we're here at Regional Night just looking to challenge other students or parents. It's a little slow right now, but should be picking up in a little bit.
Big cities. Which of the 10 biggest cities in the U.S. is in Illinois?
Chicago.
I pressed it.
You pressed it, but
You
it
got
got
it.
it
He's got fast fingers. Yes, Chicago.
What are you?
Borders. The Savannah River separates Georgia from what other state?
That one's South Carolina.
Where's McAllen? Are you sure?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I have experience crossing that river.
Forts. These are in what state? Fort Riley, Fort...
Kansas.
Oh, come on. I was I lived 20
You
minutes.
live in
I left 20
Sorry.
minutes. 20 minutes before that.
Fort Leavenworth.
My name is Bob Dean. I'm from the Career and Tech Center. About 8 years ago now, I was working at North Carroll High School and ran into a little known rule. And that is when you transfer from being a teacher to being a counselor, you lose that little thing called tenure in your building. And so I was looking here and I was looking there after 20 years in education to think, where would I want to go? And there was a little building over in Westminster called the Carroll County Career and Tech Center. I knew little about it. I knew a few students who had gone there, wasn't really interested in what was over there. And I had a friend, his name was Henry Adami, and he said, hey, why don't you think about being a counselor over at the Career and Tech Center? Our one counselor is leaving. And I said, well, tell me a little bit more. And as he started telling me about it, I was kind of excited about what they do over there. I didn't know what they did, but I jumped in. Otherwise, I could have been sent anywhere in the county. When I got over there, what I found was students from 8 high schools signing up to be in programs that they are interested in with a teacher in front of the classroom, most of them averaging 20 years of experience in their career field. The students get there and they have an experience that a lot of them have never had before. I'd like to do a presentation and kind of give you the general themes of what you're going to see over at the Career and Tech Center. And that is, you're going to see opportunities for your sons or daughters to earn college credits, get certifications that are worth money, to be in front of experienced teachers, and be in certified programs. And we'll talk about the importance of all those in just a second. The 2 papers that you see on the table I'm going to go through, and they're kind of going to give you notes about what I'm going to be covering here tonight. The first one is frequently asked questions, so that as I go through tonight, you always get that question. It's like, are there any questions? And you're like, well, I don't even know what questions to ask. This may help you think about some of the things that you may want to ask questions about. The other paper is what we call value added. Every year of education, I always love to ask 9th graders, how much does a year of education cost in Carroll County Public Schools? And the average, on average, if someone came from out of state to go here, it will be about $11,000. And I say, hey, after you graduate, you're going to be paying. Right now, the taxpayers are paying because in the United States, we want to educate students to give everybody a chance at their future. So let me first of all go over a couple of the programs that we have. Here are some of the ones that your 8th graders, or if you're 9th or 10th graders now, but in 8th grade, they were all brought to the Career and Tech Center. Some of them came to the transportation programs, auto service, collision, heavy equipment. Some of them came to the construction programs. All these are skilled, so this is not something that you can go down to a parking lot and say, hey, can you come build this for me or lift this or something? These are all skilled, taught by instructors that were either in industry or are still in industry. Some of them have retired, some of them are still in industry in those areas. Computer related, and a lot of our programs have one computer for each student, but these 2 are specific to the computer field, are Cisco and computer science. Cisco, they just took the test, I think it was last week, on average, the certification test that you could take to China, and they would know what that certification test is. Usually averages about 5% pass rate out in industry. That's post-secondary. We had 30% of our students pass that test last week. Computer science actually turns into an AP course. The health and human services, you see the nursing program. I'll talk more about that later. But just incredible stuff. These students now, next week, are going to be going out and they will be in the hospital caring for patients. They did some patient care in the fall, so they get certified, but some of them are going to go into surgery in March and actually be a surge tech. Some of them will be doing phlebotomy, EKGs, all sorts of things. We also have a physical rehab program and specialized medical options. We do with a Carroll County, Carroll Community College. Dental assistant, farm tech, and medical records coding is something that you can do part at ours, and then you go to their school for the rest of them. We also have biomedical, and on the human service side, we have one of our more popular programs, Homeland Security Criminal Justice. Business and retail, a very popular one. We call these our Main Street programs. We have textile and fashions. They just had a fashion show last week that had over 600 people come to that fashion show. These students create 36 different outfits in their time. They also do interior design and do a lot of things actually for the community. Last year they made blankets in their spare time. This year they've been making pillowcases that they give to pediatric centers in the area. Culinary arts, cosmetology, print, and video. Each one of them is going to prepare your son or daughter with skills, and we'll talk about that in a second. Engineering, Project Lead the Way, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, we were recognized as one of the 2,000 programs in the country. We were recognized one of the top 16 in the country. That was for both engineering and biomedical. Manufacturing and machine tech, NIMS, we are the only program in the state certified, one of the few in the country where a high school program is certified in machine tech. And then we also have a drafting program where our drafter says if you take his program in the outside world, the software and the training would cost you about $8,000. That's what we call value added. So why come to the Career and Tech Center? You got to give up a little bit of time at your home school. You got to travel in a bus. It's a little bit uncomfortable because you got to learn something new. So why? Why come there? They have incredible programs back here at Key. They have the Global Positioning, Homeland Security program. They have ag programs, business programs. If you like one of those areas, stay here and put that program together so that when you graduate, you're ready to go. But if one of our programs fits, I'm going to tell you why you may want to come to our school. And this is something that over the years I kind of thought about. Let's say you graduate and you want a job. What's every employer going to look for? An employer wants experience. Well, how do you get experience? Work at McDonald's, work at Pizza Hut? It's work experience, but it's not in your field. How do you get experience? We need no skills. Where do you get the skills? Well, you could learn them from your dad or learn them from an uncle. You could learn them from a professor. But you got to get some sort of training, and training costs money. That's where we jump in. College credits, industry certification, while gaining work experience in certified programs. Let me break it down a little bit for you. Every one of our programs has a college connection. Academy of Health is now transcripted. That's the 5.0 level of GPA. So your students are going to be earning credits and grades on the same level as an AP class because they can earn credits at Stevens. Honors and AP level coursework in computer science, and all of our programs have some articulation, and that's one of the things I put in your packet here. This paper right here shares the different programs that we have articulation agreements with. And on this paper, if you want to find your program, we list all the college credits that you can earn at our school.
If you have a few minutes, we have, over the last couple of years, the school system has faced some pretty trying times. And we have a large group that's getting ready to come down from our 8th grade transition meeting, I think. Mr. Guthrie has been kind enough to come here again and speak. Last year he spoke here about our budget issues, and I could introduce him and go through his bio as I've done in the past, but I think he's probably faced the most tumultuous times as a superintendent probably ever has in Carroll County. As he smiles, as he's looking at me as I say that. But I think we could have easily totally destroyed the educational system with where the budget has gone over the last couple of years. And the leadership that he and his office have shown and come out to those that are on the ground and said, how can we still offer the same quality of programs with much, much less money, with fewer kids? What's priority one, what's priority two, and then how can we kind of make all this work out? So I was presenting material up in the cafeteria, and we're talking about programs that are now housed in Westminster High School, in other schools around the county, and we combine programs together to be more efficient. That's the kind of things that we've really needed in leadership over the last couple of years, and I'm very proud to say that I was able to watch that and learn from that. I just think it's incredible that a person who's been able to be as successful, you know, within the school system with less resources and even more, you know, even smaller resources that might be coming down the pike. The challenges are definitely not over with, and you know, I think we have another tough couple of years ahead, as we all heard. The state level's looking at a deficit and those type of things. So I think some challenges are really going to face us over the next couple of years. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce the gentleman who's gotten us through all that piece and really held us together, Mr. Steve Guthrie.
Good evening. Thanks for taking time out to come out to this wonderful opportunity to have a consolidation of schools all in one place. Lots of activities, lots of fun. This has been wonderful as I've wandered around the school and saw all that's going on. John talked about budget, and I did release my proposed budget last night. It's out for public comment. I'll answer questions about the budget, but that's not really what I want to talk about. Actually, I want to talk about John. He's now in John here. I actually want to talk about something that John, when I interviewed him to be the principal at this school, something he kept talking about that I also felt akin to in some of the experiences that I've had. And so I want to talk about expectations. I think the large majority of people that we set expectations for rise to meet those expectations. And conversely, I think if we don't have those expectations, if we lower expectations for students, for staff, and in our own personal lives, then we find ourselves not motivated to do anything. So it's all about expectations. And this was brought home to me several years ago when I read a book that was recommended to me by one of my old college professors, and it was called The Other Westmore. I've talked about it a little bit in some other forums, but the basic theme of this book is Westmore, and I'll talk a little bit about his successes. Westmore was an inner city youth and in Baltimore, and he went through some experience common to inner city youth who were raised in poverty of going through a period of no role models. Nobody to talk to, nobody had expectations for him. And so he found himself involved with the police, he found himself running the streets, he found himself in gangs, he found himself headed down the path common to other people in his neighborhood. Going to jail, the route was going to jail, drug and alcohol abuse, early death. No contribution to society. But there was one person in his life who knew he could do better, and that was his mother. And with the help of the court system, the juvenile justice system in Baltimore, she was able to get him placed at a military academy in Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia. Let me back up. She was able to get him placed at a private school. He ran away 4 times. And finally, they took him out. Then she was able to get him placed through the court system at a military academy near Philadelphia. The private school did not work because the difference between what he was used to and the level at the private school, the socioeconomic level of the students at the private school, he didn't fit. And he never felt like he fit. And he ran away. He didn't have that option at the military school. He fought and rallied against the conformity, rallied against the discipline, rallied against the structure for 3 years. And then something clicked. He started seeing his life differently. He started seeing that the expectations that were laid out for him were realistic and within his grasp. And he changed. And he started meeting the expectations that were laid out before him. He rose to the level of what he could be aspired to. He ended his military career at the academy, commanding several small troops. He used that as a springboard to get a college degree, used the college degree as a springboard to get advanced degrees, used that as a springboard to get into politics, and ended up as a special assistant to Condoleezza Rice. And something happened during that time. He was reading the local Baltimore paper, and he saw on trial for murder Wes Moore. Same name, same neighborhood, same socioeconomic background, same, almost to the letter, everything. And he became intrigued. 2 blocks from where I grew up, there's another Wes Moore, my age, my socioeconomic level, in jail for murder. And I'm here. I'm successful by every measure. I'm successful. And this other Wes Moore is not. And so he wrote to him. Didn't get a response. Wrote to him again. Didn't get a response. Wrote to him again. Got a curt response. Went to visit him in jail and struck up a conversation with him and tried to piece together the difference between the 2 Wes Moores. Tried to understand why he was where he was and this Wes Moore was sitting in jail for murder. And the only inescapable conclusion he could come up with was expectations. This other Wes Moore never had anybody in his life that set forth expectations that he could rise to meet. The only expectations the other Wes Moore had were low expectations. You're going to be a bum from the neighborhood, you're going to be in crime, you're going to be murder, you're going to be drug. That's it, the expectations of the gang, and he met those. And he mused in his book about how our society could change if every one of our students, every one of our teachers, every one of our youth had someone in their lives that could set expectations. And as I was interviewing John, and he started talking about expectations and what he wanted to do for Francis Scott Key, it really hit me. And I want to segue into my own experiences in Carroll County Public Schools. I did not start my career in Carroll County Public Schools. I started my career in California, in Los Angeles school system. And I want to talk about expectations of different school systems. And I want to talk about what Carroll County Public Schools expects of its teachers and of its students, and why I felt at home here. I graduated from a college in Pennsylvania, no jobs in the 70s, went to California, ended up getting a job in the Los Angeles school system and taught there for 2 years. During those 2 years, I never received any staff development. I never received any, as incredible as it may seem, I never was observed. In 2 years, I never was observed. So think about that. 2 years, fresh out of college, first-year teacher, no professional development, no observations. Now, as a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, I thought that was great. I thought that was wonderful. I am so good that nobody needs to give me any direction. I can do what I want. Looking back, my skills deteriorated. Whatever skills I had at the time deteriorated and deteriorated and deteriorated. I didn't know it, and I didn't know it 2 years later. But there were no expectations for me to do any better. As long as the kids were quiet and well managed and got good grades, that was all that mattered. I left California, came back to, which is another story in itself, that somehow my mom manipulated me to come back home. And I ended up teaching at Southwestern School System in Pennsylvania, where I taught 7th grade world cultures. And I spent a year there. I was observed once. In my post-observation conference and evaluation, I got one suggestion on professional development. You need to put up a bulletin board. That was my professional development plan. So again, as a 25-year-old, I was fine with that. But then, as sometimes happens, student enrollment dropped, And I was riffed. I was not just moved around, I was riffed out of a job. And I ended up applying to Carroll County Public Schools and got hired as a psychology teacher at North Carroll High School in 1982. And the first month, I was observed 4 times. Now that's quadruple what I was observed in 3 years. Every week, someone was in my classroom watching my lesson, and not just watching my lesson, writing copious notes, suggestions, and every post-observation conference was filled with suggestions for improving. I thought, I'm going to get fired. I don't have any idea what I'm doing. But I listened. I was a little annoyed at first, but I listened to the suggestions. I changed the way I taught. I changed the grammar in my handouts. I made sure that everything was spelled correctly and I had proper grammar. I started moving around the classroom. I started learning the art and science of teaching. And the next month I get to continue to get observed, and I get observed, and at the post-evaluation conference in mid-year, my principal said to me, "We were a little worried about you. We were concerned because you came in with great recommendations and we didn't see it in the beginning, but we're starting to see it now." Why? The expectations changed. There were no longer expectations, do what you can to keep the kids quiet. The expectations were, we expect you to teach, we expect students to learn, and here's how you do it. And I got better and better and better. And again, it wasn't until years later, not that year, but years later, that I began to reflect back on my early years in different school systems and how I performed in what I did and how I got better and why I got better. And it all comes back to the same theme. The expectations of those who observed me in Carroll County was different than the expectations of those who I worked for before. So a good school system, has high expectations for their teachers and provides the appropriate professional development the teachers need to get better at every level. A good classroom is comprised of teachers who expect their students to perform at a certain level. A good school is headed up by a principal who expects the teachers and the students to perform at a high level. That's what fundamentally happens in Carroll County Public Schools. That's fundamentally what I expect of my administrators and my teachers and our students. That's why we're a good system. That's why budget is only a piece of the problem and a piece of the solution. Expectations of students, expectation of staffs is the answer. I can attest to that, and I know it's easy to get bogged down in important things, such as compensation, fair compensation, resources. All of those things are important. But they're all only important because they lead to teachers being motivated to teach and students to learn. I have a proposed budget out there. There are hearings coming up. It's all been published. I sent an email out to everybody with the dates, what my proposed budget will include. This isn't a year that we're going to be able to make great strides for improvement, but it's a year that I hope that we can start building a base to stay flat and not cut anymore, and then go forward with the next 4 or 5 years and be able to provide improvements to the school system, address staffing needs, address compensation needs, and address staff development needs. Okay, thank you for coming. I appreciate your interest.